we are gathered here today on this evening inside of Thanksgiving. It's quite late for everyone who is, unlike me, not on the the glorious west, the glorious west of these thankful United States, to talk about um to talk about perversion and the social bond and Kabbalah, um and about how French people don't ever read their books because they just lie to you all the time. They just lie to you all the time. And then people take them seriously and they tell you to read these fucking French guys and they don't explain to you that they're all liars. And and it just gets to you and you think you understand the world, but it's actually just a bunch of lying French dudes. And um this guy, Mr. Pierre Klossowski, is very important. Foucault, Deleuze, and Guattari, especially together, um, but to a lesser extent separated. Um, Baudrillard, to some extent, guys like Lacan. Everyone was reading this fucking guy. They were all reading him. They were all like writing to him about how great his books were and how important his stuff was. But he's like he should, and his stuff is like shorter, but people don't talk about it as much. People don't talk about it nearly as much, even though it's so important. Um, how do I even begin to discuss this stuff? Should I do a visual aid? Should I do a visual aid? Let me see if I can get my Critis set up so I can do a little drawing while I talk about this shit. Let's put me over here. All right. Okay. Do I have streams somewhere I can read it? How about over there? Doing everything on one little monitor on my laptop. Okay. Um. What's the kind of story I want to tell? Philosophy is all about telling a good story. Philosophy is all about telling a good story. Um. So from the beginning of time, no, that's stupid. Can I draw here? Yes. Oh my god, I'm doing it with the mouse. Let's fucking go. We got this division. We got we got matter. Oh my god. Oh my god, I should not do it with my, can I do it? It's so tiny. Oh fuck, this is horrible. I can plug my drawing tablet in, but that's gonna be a pain. Fuck. Wait, maybe it won't. Maybe it won't. Wait a minute. Let's plug the drawing tablet in. Let's do it. How stupid and abstract are we gonna make this? This is my stream. I can do whatever I want. So, oh, this is so horrible. Why am I sketching the genealogy in this way? Because I can, I suppose, and it's my stream, and I was feeling kind of down because it's Thanksgiving, and I'm by myself, and everything I've been reading recently has been making me kind of sad, so I felt like I needed to purge it out of my system. So, this is what we're doing. All right. So there's this problem. this initial problem in philosophy. Philosophy has this sense that it wants to be oriented towards some kind of uh, ultimate, some kind of ultimate principle, some kind of ground. And it's in this way connected with the religious longing, and was originally coextensive with it. um, so, but the problem is something is wrong with the world. There's this innate realization that something is wrong, even if the thing that is wrong is simply that people think that there's something wrong and fail to realize that everything is okay. That's still a problem. So there's this paradox that you can't escape, where if there is this kind of inexhaustible ground of beauty and goodness and this kind of thing that is at the edge of experience and the edge of thought, why is there anything else that is not it? And this is the one. This is the one. This is God. There are many things that you could call it. There's a quote from Heraclitus, I think, Heraclitus, who is in I have actually not read. I think his stuff is in the form of little aphorisms and shit. But I have not actually read his stuff. But there was a quote I recently reread Plato's Symposium, where Plato quotes him there, and the quote is, "The one being at variance with itself is in tune with itself like a harp or a lyre." And Plato quotes this as like, "Ooh, this is some enigmatic, crazy shit." And I'm like, "Wait, no, fuck, go off, dude." So, okay. So there's this Lacanian idea that the one unites into two. There's this side. Why I should not be starting with this. This is the wrong place to start with this. Okay. And there's this fundamental. Oh, that's above the top of it. Oh boy. Why are we starting with the one and A is not equal to A in Klossowski? I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so there's this whole problem of matter and spirit, mind in the world, the self in the world, God in the world. There's some kind of confrontation with duality that philosophy is always trying to deal with. And so you have people falling on one side or the other, right? Um one side or the other of this problem. And uh and so you have like idealists falling on the side of spirit, or materialists falling on the side of matter. Um People who are thinking about what is primary. Is mind primary? Is like mind and religion and kind of higher elevated like focus? Is this the truth, or is the truth kind of base, libidinal, irrational, animal nature, forces clashing together, um just flux and pain um and struggle and strife. um Although the division itself implies that strife itself is already in the one, um which is a interesting kind of complicated thing that we won't have time to get into today. um oh god, well, we shouldn't have had time to get into any of this either. But okay, let me pour myself a little bit more of this gas station Moscato. It's actually quite good. um but I don't have good alcohol taste because I did not drink a lot until recently, and even now I don't drink a lot. I just drink more than once every 2 months or something. Oh my god, I poured it on the fucking tablet. That's fine. Okay, so with With the advent of the early bureaucratic state in we're looking at what this is the thing that Foucault calls the disciplinary society um, in the 18th and 19th century. So capitalism. Here's the narrative. So capitalism um, starts to take hold. Uh, there's various kind of things that are influencing it, but the to kind of just choose a kind of arbitrary set for the sake of this discussion. So you have gold coming in from the New World that allows economic expansion in Europe. So we're talking post Renaissance after the 1500 before. So there starts to be gold coming in from the New World gives you economic expansion, and um and then there's independent corporate enterprises, or there's corporate enterprises that start getting formed, like the Dutch East India Company um that is formed, and along with this there's increase in increase in accounting at the same time as physics is beginning to be mathematized. So there's this jump in math and putting things on the books, and the increase in gold and accounting. And then there's the 30 Years War. The 30 Years War completely fucks Europe in like 7 ways past Sunday. Is that the phrase? The um and everyone dies. The 30 Years War is the horrible thing. There's everything that's happening at once in the 30 Years War. There's like the little ice age, and so no one has food, and they just like towns in like Central Europe will get taken and then retaken by armies like 7 different times over the course of 10 years, and just everyone no one knows what they're fighting for, and everyone's dying. It's originally sort of about Protestantism in the Holy Roman Empire, but then it stops being about that, and like the French become allied with Protestant groups, and then everyone thinks they have it figured out, and then they think they're sort of coming to a peace, but then like the king of Sweden comes in, and Sweden thought they were a world power for about 10 minutes, and Gustavus Adolphus conquered a lot of Europe. He thought he was sanctioned by God to bring about the Protestant world order because he just had so much success, and then they kicked his ass, and he died in the middle of battle. And then also there was like Italian mercenaries involved, and then there was more increase in accounting capability to pay all these men, and just and the kind of the churn of war increased the need for financial instruments, and anyway, 30 Years War. And the big thing is that it increases state capacity. So state capacity and accounting go through a big increase. Centralized state capacity. Um, States pulling everything together into the center, right? Um, and so accounting, bureaucratic management, centralized state capacity. This kind of wow, fuck. This all points to this. Everything moves to the realm of spirit or mind, right? So there's this big attempt to kind of manage everything. Foucault sketches this out in actually a lot of excruciating detail in his book Discipline and Punish, which is a very his kind of one of his more famous works, and a little bit shorter, where there's the with the there's with the bureaucratic management of the bureaucratic management style of the army becomes taken to schools and workplaces, and people are kind of put into their time of their day becomes segmented into little slots, um and they're given very specific rules, and everything goes from a kind of very loose open system for like education and work and stuff to being very organized in a way that like uh increases efficiency by a lot. But there is this, and this is when the utilitarians show up, like Jeremy Bentham um has this faith that we can account for everything. We can account for everything in rational terms, and that we can perform this kind of Occam's razor reduction on the human. Um, and well, that's kind of a chink in the armor, but anyway, we can rationalize everything, and there's this kind of this domain of mind can conquer all, right? And there's this kind of nagging question about what is left of materiality that um and that this question, um the kind of thinkers of the 19th century are obsessed with kind of dealing with this issue, um and through German idealism, through uh Kant, Fichte, Schelling, and Hegel, um they essentially they start from the domain of spirit and try to kind of reinscribe the difference between matter and spirit into spirit itself. So what the fuck does that mean? Basically, that the fundamental fact is mind, but the matter is, but the thing, something outside of mind, is essentially necessary to actualize what mind is, because it's the nature of mind to be split with itself. So we go back to A is not equal to A. So the one is not, the one being at variance with itself is in tune with itself, like a harp or a lyre. Lyre, lyre. Is it lyre? Lyre? I was always pronounced it lyre. And so there's this idea that there's this kind of movement, that the nature of that mind is this thing that is going outside of itself to find itself, and has this kind of limit where new things emerge from that can't be known, that kind of calls to it. And Liar, er 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 yeah, I mean, I think that's what it is. But we do say like lyrical and and such, but uh anyway, I like when I do a stream because I can just talk however the fuck much I want.
Yeah.
In whatever way I want. Although I usually do try to be a little bit more focused than this. I haven't done a stream this all over the place since the Baudrillard streams, like, last year. The everything is mind, right? So everything is mind, but there's still kind of this, they're trying to leave open this space. you that's, I mean, you gotta understanding people in their historical context. It's helpful. It's helpful when you got the time for it. You can place everyone in what they were doing. Well, and even Kant is writing in the Prussian Empire under almost said a slur. I probably can't do that on stream, even if I'm transgender. Under the gay man, fuck, what was his name? Mr. the Great. He proclaimed himself the Great. He spread pamphlets calling him the Great. God damn it. Prussian king. What was he called? Prussia the Great. Frederick. God damn it. Frederick. And there was this whole, I mean, there was this whole trend of enlightened despots who were into enlightenment values, who thought that, like, and once again, it's spirit, it's all about spirit, right? This idea that, like, you can rule in Kant's What is Enlightenment, which I read on stream. There's this idea that protest if you want, or think what you want, say what you want, but obey, right? And there's this idea that the something about the freedom of mind is just more important than the materiality of obedience, and um and that it's possible for a leader, instead of just kind of being this stupid puppet at the top who says yes or no, which was in some sense in some senses a previous idea of the king. um uh the king, who would delegate things to kind of talented underlings. Now the king has to be, a kind of polymath savant like Frederick the Great, or whatever. And but then everyone, the kind of enlightened despotism idea, everyone kind of threw the Enlightenment shit out after the French Revolution. They got too scared. They're like, oh fuck, okay, maybe never mind. I don't want to lose my head. Um, and and Catherine the Great of Russia was doing the same thing, and around the same time. Blah 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 blah. Um, the all these guys. I should just start titling myself the Great. Eschaton the Great. Um. Oh, oh God. Okay. But yeah. Kant is very much kind of like embroiled in the things of his time. But I mean, of course, you can also talk about the excuse me, the Leibniz and Hume, who he's very interested in responding to. Um. And but uh anyway, that's not I won't get into that too much. But anyway, and then all the Enlightenment stuff breaks out into the 19th century being another century with a lot of crises, and there's all sorts of struggle. There's all sorts of political struggle, material struggle, and people think there's communism coming. And then, okay, so this is the interesting thing. So the dial swings back to being about matter. Um, Instead of spirit being primary, the primary expression of the one, and the difference between spirit and matter being inscribed into spirit itself, and therefore the spirit being the true reflection of the one. Instead, we move to matter being the primary mediating force between spirit and matter, and therefore the difference between spirit and matter is inscribed into matter. So what does this mean? So people take it to mean multiple different things, which is actually, I am actually getting to Klossowski bit by bit. Okay, so where does the S come in? S, yeah, that seems right. So there's three big guys. There's three big guys who kind of take this side of materiality. Um, Although Freud is a slightly more complicated case. Well, and you could all three of them are more complicated cases, but generally they're three of them. They're reacting against this kind of primacy of mind over matter, to put it into the most simple little sense. Because they can see that this project of bureaucratic centralized state enlightenment stuff is producing misery, right? Producing miserable people, and they're all diagnosing different parts of miserable people, right? Marx is diagnosing that people can't fucking eat. People are wasting away and living in horrible conditions, you know. Engels, his buddy Engels is out in England observing that, like, the children in England are growing up like wild weeds without parents to take care of them because the parents are working 15-hour days, 300 days a year, 350 days a year, or whatever. And um and uh and so there's this kind of physical wasting away that kind of causes the degradation of people's everything else as well, but the physical, this kind of physical enslavement. um and then Nietzsche is kind of noticing a kind of uh a moral enslavement, an artistic enslavement, where people are not able to kind of um, live authentically and express themselves authentically, and to kind of like um, kind of realize that they're participating in a kind of evolving historical process of like evolution from one kind of society, one set of values, one way of being to another, and they're kind of stuck in this kind of cycle of self-negation that is mandated essentially by living in a society that is kind of built around the primacy of mind over matter and control, in which he identifies specifically with Christianity. Um, in Christianity's kind of focus on internality and in sin, um, and and what he understands is an idea of a soul as a kind of unified self, and so the and so he's diagnosing that the kind of human spirit, um to use a kind of different meaning of spirit here, but the human spirit is kind of withering away. We don't strive anymore, we don't want anymore, we don't want to fucking fight anymore, we don't care anymore, we don't give a shit, we just want to fucking we just want to consume our bullshit and just kind of lay down and fucking rot, because it's all too much for us. We're fucking we can't take it anymore. We can't take it anymore. We can't figure out how to deal with this crisis because we can't think for ourselves anymore. Anyway, I have strong feelings about the philosophy of Nietzsche. My dad called me once right after I had had my morning coffee. He called me once right after I'd had my morning coffee, and um, I yapped at him. He asked me the wrong question. I ended up yapping at him for an hour about Nietzsche, and he said at the end, "Wow, this guy kind of sounds like he was a mentor to you. He sounds like your mentor." And I, I don't even know how to respond to that. I don't know how to respond to that. Um, okay. And then on the other side, we have Freud. So, and then Freud is diagnosing something um similar to Nietzsche, except basically it's an enslavement of of like mental health enslavement. So we could to kind of make this a tripartite division just for the hell of it. Um we could say that Marx there's an enslavement of the body. There's an enslavement of the body and the the very the body, and then Nietzsche is an enslavement of the imagination, and Freud is an enslavement of the mind, um, and the ability to think. So, Freud kind of brings out this element that, like, living in this kind of society with these particular kind of rules creates a kind of split personality, essentially, that you have one thing that you have to do in order to follow the rules, but in order to follow the rules, you're suppressing this kind of other force, and you can suppress the force. Oh, sorry, I'm recovering from a sickness. Yeah. Excuse me. Um, I'm recovering from a sickness, and as a result of this recovery, my body is weak, and I am allergic to my cat now temporarily, it seems, and that's kind of shitty because I love my cat very much. Um, I love my cat very much, and because I got this illness while I was on a trip, and she missed me while I was gone, she rubbed herself all over everything where I was. So now everything that I have is even more cat dandruff than usual, um, because she missed me so much, and so I'm just in agony all the time. Um, okay. I was just looking at this wine. This is a low ABV wine. It's tasty though. Um, anyway, there's this enslavement of being able to be authentic is more nature, but being able to be honest with oneself. This kind of split thing, and Freud is very very bothered, and especially because Freud ends up living through world wars, right? And he's very bothered by, um, he thinks that humans have this kind of this drive to destroy inside of them, this drive to transgression, um, and that it's impossible to be happy under society. Like society is always already a compromise, um, where it's impossible to be truly happy under it because society isn't actually built to make people happy. It is built to kind of keep things together, and keep this kind of other force, this death drive from exploding, and to kind of try to find productive routes for it to um, disperse itself. Um, and he's very concerned that the like with whenever you say something, there's this question. There's this question of like, although I guess this part this notion, the more robust understanding of the unconscious has a little bit less bearing on Klossowski, but I do want to mention it because I think it's such an important dimension, and maybe also specifically because it's not something I'm going to get to talk about. The 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 there's this question of where your words even come from. Like you're choosing to express a concept, choosing to express an idea in a specific set of words. But the idea that these are the specific words that came to your head and not other ones is a very kind of mysterious thing. Like, where did these words come from? Why these words? Why these words? And this is really what like analysis in the unconscious is really about, is that there's something uncanny about the kind of force that certain words kind of force you to the certain words have this kind of force to them for you. And what is it that your relationship about these specific words? They come back to you and they haunt you. And philosophy is really about just kind of grappling with this being haunted by certain words. Like, what the fuck are spirit and matter? What is one? What is it? What is spirit and matter and materiality? One, the mind. What equals philosophy? Philosophy, 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 philosophy. This like have you ever had the experience where you look at a word long enough or you repeat a word to yourself long enough and you realize it has this, you start to understand the essence of like this word as a kind of like the pure the signifiance is there's a French term that is used by Lacan and Deleuze and Guattari, which is like the signifying capacity of something. There's this kind of materiality of the signifier itself is another term. Basically, like um that like words have a substance to them in their wordiness that kind of like they function like a machine. The words function like a machine outside of you, that you're kind of just like you're just kind of you're the words functioning like a machine. You're kind of like you're like a how do I metaphorize this. It's like there's like a there it's like there's a car manufacturing plant, and this is language, and you are just like in there taking photos, and whenever you take a photo, that's what a sentence is. The sentence is you taking a photo of this car manufacturing plant that is language, and you are not really a worker in this plant. You kind of the amount of agency you have as someone who is just taking random photos, sort of I think this actually kind of gets at the idea pretty well of the amount of agency in the place that you have in this kind of system. And oh, and so basically his critique of this kind of rational bureaucratic state management and the primacy of mind over matter is that mind itself is already split and already conditioned by matter, and even what seems to be mind is actually already functioning like a machine. Um and but and I tried not to draw connections between these three too much as I was telling this. But generally, these three guys were kind of held apart. These were kind of three divergent approaches, despite them all being fucking German guys. And so someone needed to do the disgusting, dirty, evil, dark magic work of bringing these. Wow, it's so hard for it to get my hands right now to bring these lovely three boys together and make them kiss. And this is where our boy, Monsieur Pierre Klossowski. Fuck, that was horrible. Pierre Klossowski. I don't know what I'm doing. With this. Monsieur Pierre Klossowski. Hello, Pandora's Paradox. Welcome back. Make them kiss. So, part of how he does this is, instead of using this kind of problem of matter and spirit, or base and superstructure, or will to power and lies that it fits into, any of these things, he uses a Kabbalistic fourfold picture of the world. So at the top we have impulses. So let me just list these out and then I'll explain it. Okay, so what the hell is going on here? So bear in mind, we were just talking about Freud, Marx, Nietzsche. So this is sort of how he brings them together, or this is one of the ways he brings them together. The text specifically that I might read on stream, or I might try to talk about, I kind of planned to read it a second time before I talked about it on stream, but maybe I'll just read it live. It's only like 40 pages. I probably don't have enough energy to read it all at one go. It's kind of dense, but maybe if I don't comment on it and I just kind of say it, it'll be fine. So at the top is the soul, but the soul for him is not a unified thing. In fact, it is exactly the opposite. It is like an unknowable abyss that is composed of blind forces or impulses, or he calls it in Living Currency, the text, if you read it, he calls it voluptuous emotion. So at the top is, you could sort of think of this as will to power, sort of. It's not quite exactly will to power, but it's very close to a will to power metaphysics. So at the top, um, are these kind of forces crashing against each other. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. Sorry. I'm just I'm just kind of I'm just kind of doing I'm just kind of doing this. Um we won't neglect our favorite. We will not neglect our favorite, the one who hopefully blesses us, and hopefully if this stream is being done right, we're kind of vibing around up there somewhere. Um and I'm not, you know, I'm not stingy here. I'm not stingy here. We'll give that due to whatever. Um uh are we doing a are we doing a are we doing a that? Are we doing a that? No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. That's where I draw the line. That's where I draw the line. Why? I don't fucking know. Oh, we don't even have. Man, I botched this. It really doesn't matter too much. Um uh it's so funny. I have my hands together in front of my face and it can't get. If I sit back, it gets it. It's silly. Okay. Well, if I was doing an in-depth if I was doing an in-depth thing on the Sephiroth specifically, I would be more particular about what I was doing. But for here, it's mostly just here for decoration. Because I'm not gonna anyway. Um, the top is this is will to power, basically material forces in your body. Excuse me. Doing a stream when I'm coughing so much is such a fucking bad idea. Um, the material forces in your body kind of clashing against each other, and they have no unified, they're not unified. They're kind of at war with each other constantly, and they can't be understood. And I drew a line like this here. I drew a line like this that's only one direction, because this is they it's a unilateral determination, um in this direction at least. Like, the phantasm does not reflect back on the impulses. Um, the impulses are always doing what they're doing. Um, uh, okay. Um, thank you, Anupa Fox. Sleep well. Um, okay. And then the phantasm. Phantasm is I think the most interesting aspect of his theory in it. And the phantasm, we could connect the phantasm actually to Tiferet itself. Would actually kind of be a good a good thing to do. So phantasms are essentially, um uh every phantasm is a kind of coalescence of the will to power, as the will to power, which is originally a totally scattered thing, um into uh a unified presentation. So an I, an ego, but also um a true desire, like a true will at the deepest level, um is what a phantasm is. Phantasms are the willful forces joined together into a kind of kernel, an impenetrable kernel of impenetrable kernel of life that can be expressed in an infinite way. So someone who's really driven by um some kind of artistic impulse. They have this thing that they really want to create. Someone who's a true artist or a true scientist or a true philosopher who really is onto something new, something original, and is pursuing it all the way to the end and kind of willing to fight for it. And and there's this aspect of like trying and failing, and it's this kind of inexhaustible source. It's like, and so comparing it to Tiferet is good because a phantasm is like the sun. It's like this one thing that is kind of downstream of the higher principle. The ego is also a phantasm for Klossowski, so there's this complicated thing. So phantasms are essentially deceptive if you think that the phantasm is the real thing. um because firstly, you can't ever exhaust a phantasm. And and um and you can't exhaust a phantasm, and also like it's a metastasization of some sense. Although actually that's the wrong term. It's an arrest. It's an arresting of the endless play of the impulses, but he kind of problematizes that. It's not simply bad that they got bound up. Into this unified thing, and this actually ties into Nietzsche's genealogy of morals. But anyway, well, and also to Marx, and then, okay, I'll finish this and then I'll connect it. Well, actually, no, I knew need to. Okay, so a phantasm is like the I, a phantasm is like the ego, a phantasm is like a kind of endless um self-created goal to hunt down. A phantasm is also this is where it connects to Marx, or to Nietzsche. A phantasm is a regime of power, essentially. So a phantasm, you can think about a phantasm as a kind of like in Nietzsche's genealogy of morals. When you move to the master morality, to the slave morality, each of these are a phantasm that has some kind of content that you're expressing serially. Um, but that one is an imperfect matching. But it maps more to Marx's modes of production. A phantasm is essentially a mode of production. And I gotta pee. I'll be right back. Are you having a good Thanksgiving? Or you might not be American, I suppose. I am a filthy American. Um, Although calling myself a filthy American is sort of affirming, that's integrating it back into the symbolic order. So by doing that, I'm actually reaffirming my status as a global oppressor or whatever, and I'm making it worse by explaining it in this way. Well, what can you do? Um, okay. Well, in any case, I hope you're having a lovely Thursday, whatever time it is there. Okay, fuck. Phantasm is essentially a mode of production because the phantasm conditions the creation of simulacra, right? Um, Phantasm conditions the creation of simulacra. Um, so essentially, a phantasm is like has an ideal content, or like a phantasm is sort of like a phantasm is kind of an image, or it's like this kind of cloudy, hazy unconscious fantasy. Really, it's this cloudy, hazy, unconscious fantasy that can't be fully expressed. But it because it is um essentially a kind of package, a regime of the will to power. It expresses itself. It expresses itself in the form of simulacra. um so simulacra are essentially copies or expressions of the phantasm. The phantasm has something that it wants to be, and it sort of, in the kind of lower realm, pops out a little version of itself. So like a simulacra is, an artist. An artist has some kind of unconscious fantasy, some kind of dream in their heart, and they make individual works of art that always fail to live up to the phantasm. Oh, this is so bad. Always fail to live up to the phantasm. In any given era, we have ideals. For example, in the current era, um, with the reign of global liberalism, we have the values of the French Revolution that we talked about French Revolution earlier a little bit. Oh my God, my cat came over here to hang out, and now it's making my nose worse. Fuck. I'm so sorry, PDs. Shoot. I got illness right now, and I'm on stream, so I can't take it. Um uh the freedom, justice, equality, freedom, not justice, fuck. Freedom, equality, brotherly love. There we go. Freedom, equality, brotherly love. Um and there's all these questions. There's always these questions in the politics about what is freedom? What does it really mean to be free? We're the fucking freest country in the world. We're freedom, fuck. And freedom is a phantasm, essentially, right? And so it's this kind of endlessly exhaustible ideal that um is like a um kind of a regime of coordinating acephalic will into kind of a single package. Um and there's the seriality aspect is really important, right? So it tries and fails and tries and fails and tries and fails to live up to itself. And then as it's doing this, there's this kind of dynamic relation with this thing called stereotypes. Um and then stereotypes are essentially this kind of um um yeah, not that kind of brotherly love, or maybe, well, maybe. I feel like I've never Freud does not talk about sibling incest as much as perhaps it would be interesting if he did. Um, at least not in my reading of him. Uh, the um, not to get anyway. Um, oh fuck. Okay. So simulacra are an expression of someone's or some groups. Although he's very individualistic. So I'm making it. I'm drawing more collective examples than I think actually he has a interest. He has a fascinatingly individualistic view. Um, Whereas like for Marx, and to some extent Freud, like the subjects are kind of collective, these kind of collective things. And but anyway, um someone or some group creates a simulacra to express a phantasm. um but it always fails to live up to the phantasm, and then time goes on, material circumstances change, and all that. Oh, hello, Mary Grace. Hello, 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 hello. um yes, I'm yes, I'm talking about how Pierre Klossowski, the 20th century French theorist who influenced all the other French theorists, um, the only one who you've probably heard of is Foucault. He's big influence on Foucault. How he brought together Marx, Freud, and Nietzsche, via Kabbalah, and I'm talking about. So this is the Kabbalistic tree of life, and I'm talking about how his fourfold picture um brings together and I'm coughing a lot because I'm temporarily allergic to my cat because I'm coming off of a sickness, which is make my respiratory and immune systems weaker. Um, and it sucks. Um, um, anyway, and so simulacra are like individual works that express a phantasm, but they become used up essentially. They express someone's phantasm or some group's phantasm. But time goes on, things change, and they just don't do it anymore. They just don't do it anymore, or they reach a group that doesn't understand them. And so, or they they just kind of become background noise. And so that's when they become stereotypes. So stereotypes are essentially used up simulacra. They're used up simulacra. They're old. You know, it's the same way that, you're on the seventh movie of a movie series, or you're watching someone, just draw crappy fan art of something, or you're watching some movie that's made by an amateur. I don't know why I'm using movies as an example. But it's just derivative. It's old. It's kitsch. It's not anything. It's just drawing from the collective unconscious completely, the collective, not even the collective unconscious, the collective conscious, in a way that's completely uncritical or whatever. However, in any given time, there's the dynamic relationship here, right? Um because stereotypes are also kind of what make up the regular world. And so simul fuck, simulacra and expressing phantasms um simulacra and expressing phantasms are there's this dynamic thing. They draw on stereotypes. And he makes this point that stereotypes always sort of like, they always sort of point back to the um the phantasm that they originally came from. So it's possible to kind of break through a stereotype to kind of see, to kind of get a little glimpse of the original phantasm. But anyway, it's dynamic. Um it's dynamic. And this corresponds actually quite nicely to the four world, oh my god, I can't speak, the four worlds of Kabbalistic cosmology. You have the world, these four worlds. Um and um they oh ah ah anyway, um yeah, essentially this is the at the top in Kabbalistic is like the world where God and the angels live. And then below that is the world of like the world of uh ideas, and like the world of pure forms, and the world of grace. uh the that's kind of hard to, it's very hard to penetrate, and it's disorienting to penetrate in ordinary experience. um and then below that is the world of the world of like um the world of um emotions, and matter in some sense, but like um the kind of matter that is like above you and beyond you. um like the worlds of, that you could think about it as the world of like politics, and things that um in nature and like um um and there's this kind of like ecosystem flowing um aspects to it. What's going on here is that we're I'm talking about 20th century French theorist Pierre Klossowski and how he brought together Marx, Freud, and Nietzsche via Kabbalah. Fuck, and I'm a little bit inebriated um because it seemed like a good gimmick to do on Thanksgiving. Um um okay. Well, let me see what oh, this is a fun challenge. Let me see if I can make it all kind of come together. Okay. Okay. So, philosophy. So you know how with music, right? Music is this kind of ongoing thing where you have musicians who are influenced by other musicians and there is like innovations that really changed the game. There's innovations that really changed the game, like how the Beatles kind of innovated in the album form and in the kind of things that you could put on the radio, and they brought together folk music and rock with international forms like Indian music, and they were in contact with the avant-garde like with Stockhausen, and so they were experimenting because they were influenced by Stockhausen, and there was this innovations in anyway, that I'm getting too into it. But and then in the 90s there was all these innovations in hip hop that and innovations in hip hop, and like that this changed the game, where the like with what Outcast was doing, and then you had the East Coast West Coast stuff with Biggie and Nas and Tupac and okay. But anyway, you have influences, you have an ongoing scene. You have various scenes, musical scenes. You have various musical scenes that are influencing each other in a kind of way through time, right? And there is ruptures in a scene when someone comes up with something that's crazy and new. So this actually relates to what I'm talking about in two ways. So number one is that philosophy actually has this kind of dynamic that has been going on for thousands of years, where you have schools of philosophy and individual philosophers who are influencing each other and commenting on each other. And there's like this scene where people have where there's like clout games where like, oh man, you've read this and you've read this and you're influenced by this. Oh, you're writing this thing, you're influenced by this guy. Well, that's kind of boring. Why aren't you, influenced by this guy? Like if you make a song or influenced by the Beatles, like, oh, who gives a shit? There's a bill everyone's influenced by the Beatles. This is uninteresting. You could just listen to the Beatles or listen to the 10 billion things. But like, even if you're going by that era, I don't know, like if you're influenced by King Crimson, you're influenced by Frank Zappa or something, then people think you're a little spicier, or you get really spicy, you're like, oh, you're influenced by fucking Alice Coltrane or something, right? Then it's really interesting, right? And it's the same way with philosophy, where like, people have their influences, and there's this kind of, you got to have your touchstones and the really important people, like, Plato and Aristotle and Kant and Thomas Aquinas and Hegel and Marx and all this stuff. But then there's secret people under the surface, people that you really should know about, like with music, about how, people, the Velvet Underground. There's this famous saying that the Velvet Underground only sold like 1,000 copies of their album, but everyone who bought the Velvet Underground album made a band. Only 1,000 people bought the album, but everyone who bought the album ended up going on to make their own bands, right? It's the same way with philosophy. Certain philosophers don't end up getting talked about or don't end up being very influential in their time, but then everyone fucking reads them and they become super influential. Pierre Klossowski, the guy we're talking about, is exactly like that in the 20th century. People don't talk about Pierre Klossowski, but a ton of philosophers who came after are directly influenced by what he did. and the things he brought together. And his theory specifically can be used to talk about what I was just talking about with music. So, okay, so we have this fourfold picture of the world that he paints. And it would make, I'm not going to rehash the whole thing because it would be hard to do. Um but the Kabbalah, Kabbalah, whatever, fuck, I can never decide how to pronounce it, is a system of Jewish cosmology and mysticism, where essentially this is the descent from God to the world. So the idea is that there is a continuity between God and the world, but it has sort of discrete stages, and you can understand the world better by kind of dividing it into this, and you can see there's the symbols for the four elements here. And people don't tend to kind of take this kind of esoteric shit seriously. But the thing is it directly influences important philosophers who directly influence what's happening in the real world. So, for example, this is directly, so Klossowski is a direct influence on Deleuze, who is a direct major influence uh, on Nick Land, and Nick Land is the one that all the fucking tech guys are reading and trying to build the AI that will destroy the world. So, if you want to understand why fucking idiots are trying to build AI that they think is going to become God and destroy the world, you should sit here and listen to me talk about how about French guys and Jewish mysticism. It'll make more sense. I swear to God. I swear to fucking God. I swear to fucking God. I think I spend all day thinking about this stuff, and it's real. It's real. It sounds like conspiracy bullshit because I'm inebriated right now, but I get and also coughing all the time because I'm slightly allergic to my cat because I'm post being sick. Anyway. So a phantasm is like a style. So the phantasm right here is the second level. A phantasm is like a musical style. So we could take, for example, punk rock. No, that's a bad example. We'll take, for example, the new wave of British heavy metal, like Iron Maiden, and fuck, who's the other guy? Judas Priest, right? So there's this specific thing. It has this specific essence to it, of new wave of British heavy metal, this thing that drives people who want to play that kind of music, this kind of music that there's a lot of harmonies. There's these kind of beautiful melodic structure of a lot of the guitar parts, and there's harmonizing guitar parts, and there's these big soaring vocals. It has this kind of epic feel, but it's also fucking loud and brutal, and it's dark, and it's dark and scary, but it's less dark and scary than like Black Sabbath was. But there's this kind of grandiosity, this operaticness, and there's all these kind of properties, and there's everyone's kind of um doing their own little thing about it. And this is a phantasm. This is a phantasm. So this is a kind of vision. This is a kind of unconscious creative vision that is driving people to kind of create individual works. So they're individual works. So a simulacra would be like "Hallowed Be Thy Name" by Iron Maiden is a simulacra. Um, and that is an expression of the phantasm that kind of drives new wave of British heavy metal. And then a stereotype is, for example, someone goes on YouTube today to make a song inspired by Elon Musk in his bravery, and he and or something, and the song is in the style of Iron Maiden, right? And so it's drawing. So a stereotype is, so made this simulacra, and now it's around in the public consciousness, and it's making up part of what we are, and people can kind of draw on it, and it being this kind of material that that sort of exists as a thing on its own, but is no longer like has life to it in the same way as it did when it was like hot, fresh, new, and like charged. It's a stereotype, right? This is why he calls it a stereotype. I don't know what the French word is. I should have looked up the French words, but I didn't plan for this stream. I was gonna do a Klossowski stream like next week after I reread the text, but I'm doing it. I decided to do it live. Um, Anyway, stereotypes, right? And so this is, and then, but everything, I need more water. I need liquid. I'm coughing. I need to solve this problem. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm no longer struggling quite as much. So, Mamma Mia 551. Mamma Mia. Mamma Mia. Yeah, I'm doing all right. So I had an illness last week. But then after the illness passed, because it was a respiratory illness, it like weakened my immune system or made me. I was talking to Claude the AI about this, and basically, I already had a theory about this. Basically, I had I think I have a subclinical cat allergy, and now because I am post to sickness, my body is weakened in such a way that the subclinical cat allergy is expressing itself at a clinical level. So I'm basically coughing and sneezing all the time. And in the evening, it gets worse in the evening because your my cortisol levels drop in the evening because in the cortisol anti-inflammatory levels dropping means I'm more susceptible to it. But I'm trying to only take the cough meds and shit only right before bed because because I've been sick for a week. I don't want to just be taking them constantly all the time because they'll lose effectiveness or something. Um, so I'm waiting until closer to bed to take the cough meds. So all I have in me is a cetrizine right now, an antihistamine, and it's rough. But my cat walked out of the room, and I closed the door. But she'll probably want back in about 10 minutes. But that'll be okay. I have my window open. I'll make it work. Um, my coughing fits always stop after a couple of minutes. Okay. Does this make any more sense, Mamma Mia? What I've explained thus far. After you asked what the hell was going on, did I kind of did I make it feel like this sort of makes any sense at all? I'm trying to pull up the text itself because I might just read it out loud. I probably want to talk about some stuff first though. Because I have to talk about Marquis de Sade a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, better than nothing. That's good enough. Anyone here ever heard of sadomasochism? So, sadomasochism, um, uh, like in BDSM, bondage, submission, sadomasochism. Actually, the terms all kind of serve multiple. The terms all serve multiple purposes actually, because it's bondage, dominance, bondage, dominance. There's another thing that the D stands for. Discipline, bondage, dominance, discipline. Uh, Submission, sadism, masochism. It's all connected because it's fucking pure Klossowski. Um, so I mean, have you ever listened to heavy metal before? Have you ever listened to, I don't know, not even heavy metal. Have you ever listened to punk before? Have you ever listened to anything by like the Drain Gang, the contemporary music? Music is pretty fucking masochistic if you ask me. Music, you go and watch a show. They're you're submitting fascistly to these fucking guys on stage. Why do you give a shit about what they're doing? Of course Metallica counts. They have metal in the name, my dude. My sister, my my comrade, my brother in Christ. Um okay. I fucking love Metallica. Okay. Um Listening to heavy metal masochistic. Anyway, that's more of a joke. That's actually not the connection at all. Okay, so um, the connection is that we were talking about Freud earlier. The obedience to social rules is painful. The obedience to social rules is painful. Why do we give a shit about society? This is a kind of interesting question. Why do we do what society wants us to do? If, as Klossowski asserts, and as many thinkers seem to think, including Nietzsche, who he mentioned, that inside of us we have this kind of core of impulses that are above and are not subservient to uh not subservient to uh illusions, so to speak, such as the self, or as needs like the kind you can get filled in society, like the need for ramen noodles or sex. Um why do we submit to this order? Why do we why do, or more specific, not even we, why does this the swirling intensity of things inside of your body, all your little molecules, all the sun and the earth and the winds and your blood, everything in you that surges and yearns and drips with pain and desire, and just fuck all that shit in you. Fuck all the crazy shit that's just pulsing and breathing with life. All the stuff, everything that's vital and powerful and scary inside of you. Why is it fine to just go sit down in front of a fucking computer for 8 hours a day? That's what these guys want to fucking know. Why the fuck does that happen? How does that make any sense? You know, one could say, well, maybe it actually isn't true that we're kind of made up from this kind of surging, pulsing thing. But that's not what. But they're starting from the idea that we are. They've had basically a mystical apprehension that there's something going on there. And as we were talking about earlier, this is a also, you have to understand historically, this is a swinging of the dial from idealism to materialism, from the regime of spirit to the regime of matter, because we were talking about history and how the rise of the bureaucratic state, the bureaucratic state, and that happened for early capitalism after the 30 Years' War, and we were talking about Foucault, and we were talking about not David Bentley Hart, about David Hume. We weren't talking about David Hume. We were talking about not John Milbank. God damn it, I can't remember any of these guys' names. John Stuart Mill, but we weren't even talking about him. David Bentley Hart. Fuck, I said David Bentley Hart again. Jeremy Bentham. Fuck, his name is not like any of those other names. About utilitarianism, and basically the idea that the state is going to manage everything. The state is one giant mind that can take account of everything in the world, and time can be split into infinite blah 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 little divisions. Right. Anyway, there is a state. The reason that we're doing all this shit in the first place, the reason that all this is, we're thinking about all this, is there is a state that is trying to control everything. The state is trying to control everything. These experts think that they can control everything. And this is the thing that the right wing, the people in the right, are actually still mad about. And the people on the left are mad about it too, because I'm transgender. What are you going to tell me about? I want to go piss. If I'm in public and I want to go piss, I want to go piss in peace. Why can't I go piss? I'm a trans woman. I try never to use goddamn public bathrooms. I try to never use public bathrooms. This is my stream announcement. I'm a trans woman and I don't like using public bathrooms. Okay. Anyway, so the bureaucratic state that wants to manage everything, and these guys are reacting against it by being like, no, fuck you, mommy state, fuck you, nanny state, fuck you, management bullshit, fuck you, Mr. President, you're not my goddamn dad, okay? And so so this is essentially saying that there's this thing that is actually the truth of the world that can't be controlled by you, fuck you, you're not my dad, right? So that's what we got going on here. What was the thing I was going to talk about next? Sadomasochism. The problem is, even if you say, fuck you, you're not my dad, there's still question. You're still thinking about dad. What's dad doing there? What do you do with dad? How do you get rid of dad? How do you deal with dad? Dad is the psychic function. Dad as the thing that's there that you can't get around. Infamously, Mr. Friedrich Nietzsche, Mr. Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche. I don't think his middle name was Wilhelm. The one second, I'm gonna have more of this gas station Moscato. Yeah, but the thing is, if you murder dad, then what do you do after the fact? Freud already thought about this. That this is this is the Oedipal complex. The problem with the Oedipal complex is that if you kill the father, then the father remains as the symbolic father of the law, because if everyone can kill everyone else, you form a pact. So that this is the primordial myth in Freud's Totem and Taboo, I believe. I haven't actually read the book. I've read. It's not a Freud text I've read. I've read 5,000 people talk about it though. There's the Urvater, the Urvater. There's the primordial father who possesses all women. Because fuck philosophy is so fun. This stream, this fucking stupid drunk stream is a good idea. I don't think I'm gonna do this again anytime soon. But it was a good idea. The Urvater, the primordial father, the possessor of all women. So essentially, there's the problem of the problem of the authority, this idea of an ideal authority that is a perfect authority. And if you but it has real force. But if you get rid of it, it returns, because all the brothers who kill the Urfata have to make a pact with each other, so that they don't just kill each other, and also to prevent anyone from becoming a new Urfater. So this is an interesting thing. So in Lacan's, oh god, never mind. I'm not going to talk about. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. Okay, the thing about men is. Never mind. I'm not going to talk about the graphic situation. I'm sorry. Okay, because that would be too much. If your brain hurts now, if I start talking about Lacan, you're gonna want to do things that I can't say on stream. Um. Okay. Possessor of all women, not that important. Okay. I just like saying the Urfather, the primordial father, the possessor of all women. I probably said the phrase about 15 times now. I just like it. It just tickles me. It just tickles me. So fuck. Where was I going? Marquis de Sade and Mr. Massock. Um, I do like words. I do like words, and I was talking earlier about the kind of the automaton of the signifier. So, there's all sorts of things that you could probably read into me about why I use certain words and repeat certain words. Because I used earlier the signifying automaton. So language, the idea language. Freud's idea, at least is interpreted by Lacan, which I think Lacan's right about this, is language. Language is this thing that functions separately from us. Language is like a factory that we can't control, that we don't really understand, and we are what we are when we say a sentence. Yeah, no, that's is it not in the title of the stream? The I'm not that drunk actually, but I've had an entire bottle of gas station Moscato, but it's not a very strong gas station Moscato. Um and but yes, I am inebriated right now. That's kind of part of the gimmick of this specific stream. Um on top of the strange fact that I am a VTuber talking about 20th century French philosophy on no, it's a wine. This one is specifically, it is partially carbonated wine. Um, but I don't like beer. Uh, I'm actually not that big of an alcohol fan, but this just seemed like a good gimmick, and also I was a little bit sad because it is American Thanksgiving, and I'm an American, and I did not have any plans. I'm a little bit alone. Um, and I've been reading all sorts of things lately that kind of made me feel even more alone. And talking about Klossowski actually brought together multiple thoughts about I just recently read this visual novel called That's Very Funny. You mean like you're doing right now by watching my stream and commenting? Reading stuff like what? I mean stuff like Pierre Klossowski's Living Currency. But also I was about to talk about there is an artist I follow on Twitter whose stuff I cannot show on stream. Well, I could probably show some for safe for work drawings. Called Harley. Her name is Harley, and her at is Beast God DK, I believe. Um, she is a British transgender woman who actually she might be it. She might be it. She's probably she it, but she might be it. So I'm just gonna use it. It is it draws pixel art, but like a very interesting kind of pixel art that is I don't know how to describe it. It's just very original. If any of you are like art nerds and you happen to be familiar with the early 20th century avant-garde Viennese artist Egon Schiele, who died during the Spanish plague and who was a student of Gustav Klimt. Gustav Klimt, who did the Kiss, who did the famous paintings that are like juxtapositions of women's bodies and like really fancy patterns. Gustav Klimt, The Kiss. Um, uh, Egon Schiele was his student. Egon Schiele is one of my favorite artists. He drew all these kind of really disturbing avant-garde nudes. Um, but they're really interesting because they're just like dripping with a kind of they have like a minimalism and a lot of. I think the it's freedom freedom uh Hey, I mean, hey, chewing, that's fine. Do you ever draw with the crayons that you're chewing on? I recommend drawing. It's good for you. Um, I know a lot of random stuff. That's part of why I like stream. Well, it's important to know about the world. I think everyone should learn about history. Everyone should study philosophy. Everyone should train their senses and get good art. A lot of one of the biggest problems with capitalism is that everyone is too fucking busy. Everyone is too fucking busy working these horrible jobs that work them to death. And we need a society that allows people to spend time developing their faculties so that they can do great stuff. It's very hard to do great things unless you fully understand the world and have a knowledge of history and at least a preliminary accounts of what it means to be and to think. And you have to know where you came from in order to know where you're going, because this is the thing that I was talking about, simulacra and stereotypes, right? So like you have to be able to, and you have to really know what's going on in order to be able to distinguish between your own phantasm, which is where your true will is, which is your ability to express what's really in your heart, and what really age restrictions for this channel. I mean, I don't usually turn it on, but this stream, because I'm talking about sadomasochism, and because I'm drinking and wanted to not put any like swear filters on. Yeah, I'm talking about Pierre Klossowski. He's a fucking dirty French theorist. So he's talking about sodomy and sadomasochism, and the specific vision of the world that he's painting is one that's very violent. So yeah, I clicked the button. I don't actually fully understand what it does on my OBS. I clicked the button that says, yes, this stream has profanity. This stream has sexual content or whatever. Um, but usually on my streams, that's not the case. Mm. Is there an age restriction? I don't know. I don't think you can do a full age restriction. I don't know. I just clicked the button. That's all I did. You heard sodomy, you're back in. I'm not saying anything that's objectionable. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm talking about theory. I don't fucking know, dude. Don't worry about it. You can go read this in a book. It's in the library. Um, this is very abstract stuff. It's base stuff, but it's abstract stuff. Um, God, fuck. Okay. Yes, sodomy. Well, so sodomy is an interest. Okay. Um, 1 second. Okay. So basically, Freud says that in order for the social bond to work, we all have to kind of repress these. God damn it. Why is my cough getting worse? I guess I can go ahead and just take my fucking evening cough meds. It's um I think it's silly. I'm not saying anything that you couldn't teach in a high school class. Yeah. Okay. So then I clicked the thing. If there's a specific way that Twitch wants to handle it, they can handle it their own way. Um, the Freud basically says that there is, in order to exist in a society, we have to suppress these parts of ourselves. But in pushing these parts of ourselves down or to the side, it essentially makes us crazy because they're still there and they just have to express themselves in a different way. And it kind of makes us run around in circles doing all sorts of crazy shit. Um, and there's this question about how we deal with this because society is still there and there's this hope that if we're able to bring about communism or something, um eh, whomst among us, Pandora's paradox, whomst among us. um so like if we could bring about a perfect society, then like maybe we wouldn't have this split. But what would it even look like for this to exist where we don't have the split? And that's essentially this question is like Marx is kind of pointing towards this society where we don't have the split anymore between where everyone is able to be whole and things are able to be perfect. So Marx is essentially enunciating a eschatological logic, which is to say a logic of the end times, like in a religious sense, that like the final judgment, when everything makes sense and it all becomes okay. Um, 1 second, I'm just making sure that I'm not gonna die from drinking while taking these cough meds. Um, I'm pretty sure it's fine. Um, 'Cause how do we bring it all together? Marx sort of tries to articulate it, but he's mostly concerned with the critique, with sort of getting there. Nietzsche sort of tries to articulate it, but for Nietzsche, the important thing is savoring the fact that, like, whatever values of the next society are coming after us, whatever they are, we can't really know them. We can only lay the groundwork for them. Because remember, this is Marx plus Nietzsche plus Freud is the important thing. We can't really know what's gonna come next. And you just have to, like, you have to be kind of patient to kind of let it show itself. Um, and then um, Freud Freud has basically no optimism at all. Freud thinks that we're just kind of eternally fucked. Um, so Klossowski has this idea that what if communism could work despite Freud's kind of observations that there seems to be something irredeemably broken in human nature if we were all able to treat each other as um basically objects uh in like a semi-sexual way. um And that's the kind of thing. Is that, like, okay, maybe we could overcome all this if we didn't have capitalism, but instead, and so the title of it is Living Currency. So basically, like, the currency is living people, like in slavery or prostitution, but it's in this kind of weird, abstract way. And he expresses it in this particular way to kind of be edgy, but you could sort of there's this vision underneath. Oh my god, why is my shit worse right now? I just watched this movie at the recommendation of my friend called Welcome Home, Mr. McDonald, or Welcome Back, Mr. McDonald. Have any of you ever heard of it? Fuck. Okay. What the hell is this playlist? There's a 25 episode playlist of Welcome Back, Mr. McDonald Explained, and it's just videos that have absolutely nothing to do with Welcome Back, Mr. McDonald. Crazy. Anyway, so Welcome Back, Mr. McDonald is the plot of the movie. Fuck. Oh my god, this is so horrible. Sorry, one second. God damn it. Okay, whatever. It's not even a good example either. Oh. I'm struggling. I'm struggling with my allergy shit too much to even talk now at this point. Fuck. Oh, look at her go. Look at that. I have my hand stable, but it's doing that. Maybe I will have to cut it here. Fuck. I suppose that is the stream. Maybe tomorrow I will come back and read out loud. This has been my my drunken Klossowski lecture stream. Have a good evening, y'all, and a good Thanksgiving if you happen to be American.